Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Tuesday, June 6th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this would be a video for you. First off, a couple clarifications. Number one, the price you see over there will be changing, and the candlestick you see right there will be moving around. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time, but I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, FRZA, big movement today. And what I like about this one is a good, well-defined pattern. And when you have well-defined patterns, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want, it can produce some very nice movement. So let's get this pattern here drawn out. And you got to think that a lot of people are watching this general area right up here around $3.35 as the key area of resistance and breakout point. Then you also have to think that there's probably a lot of people out there that drew this uptrending line right there. So I'm going to change this to green to represent more so the bullish part of the pattern. And then to make this pattern maybe easier to see, let's just keep it one color at this point. So we have our resistance, we have our support, and then we have this big explosion right here. And then if you golfers out there, we'll put the golf hole down here to make it a little bit more visual. And this would be a bull pennant pattern. So nothing is guaranteed, but is it plausible? Is it valid to think that if the price can curl back up, get to the top part of that pattern, and then get a break, that break in and of itself could create additional buying pressure? That is certainly a plausible outcome. Again, not guaranteed, but more than plausible. Next one, PLTR, and this is just a beautiful looking chart here, and you could throw this right into a textbook. This will mean a bit more to those of you that watched the video from last week, but if you did, you know that I've been talking about that area of resistance at 15 over and over again, and there is a rule in charting that when levels of resistance are broken and closed above, you want to see them act as support. And you can see opening 30 minutes today, price broke above that level, and then check it out. Just a beautiful, example here of a back test. Price broke out, came back down a couple times, found support at that former breakout point, and then went back up. So that's where we got to get this changed. Again, when levels of resistance are broken and closed above, you want to see them act as support, and that has actually already played out here. In fact, sort of happened again this afternoon. Price didn't hit it exactly during that portion of the day, but got close and has once again held strong. So continue to watch $15 moving forward. That'll be a main area of support. In the event the price falls below there, I would not say that's the end of the world, because not only do you still have the 50 paired moving average, you also have this overall trend line right there. So point here being is that there are sure a lot of areas of support now down below the price. As far as levels of resistance, very straightforward, sort of like what we just looked at on the previous one. Got to think that a lot of people are probably watching up though there at 1565. You can see several times the price has been rejected by that area. So if the price can get back up there, that would be the key breakout point. Next one, SEV, penny stock here, and there's no doubt about it, this one's looking pretty ugly right now because, yes, the price made a huge move up, but as I speak, there is a downwards move that's occurred. So it really just is a question of, and you've heard me say this before, ugly looking chart, but there can be opportunity in the ugly. So if you like to play these scenarios where things were strong and then starting to pull back, then there's some opportunity here. And especially if you just look at it as acknowledging the reality. And the reality is, yeah, there has been a downwards channel that has formed. However, from the big picture of things, you have to ask, well, yeah, but what was happening before this downward channel? Well, you had this huge explosion right there, which has now allowed me to draw what is known as a bull flag pattern. Just because something's bullish doesn't mean for sure guaranteed it's going to go back up. But nobody could accuse you of, being, random or irrational to say, oh, look, it's a bull flag pattern. Oh, look, there's some sideways movement here. But potentially this is getting ready to turn back up. Of course, not guaranteed. But again, is that some sort of irrational trade plan? No, that makes a whole lot of sense. Just doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to happen, especially when you factor in that during this pullback, volume has dropped off quite a bit also. So from a volume analysis standpoint, it fits into the picture quite nicely also. So if you like to play these sorts of scenarios, you like penny stocks, certainly keep an eye on it. Next one here is CJET, and same general idea, which is why I wanted to put it back to back because I don't want to repeat myself. So nice strong move up. The price has pulled back. And now you have a situation where, to be fair, it's gone sideways quite a bit. Does that guarantee that this pullback is over and that this is the bottom? No, but it at least becomes a whole lot more, plausible and, rational in terms of, the way you're thinking. So for that reason, pretty straightforward. Key level of support right there at 555. Again, nothing fancy other than the price has bounced off that level once, twice. So if it comes down there again, will it bounce? That'll be the big question mark. Is, third time a charm where it bounces and then gets more, upside follow through. So like I said, same general idea, big move up, bigger pullback. So yeah, looking a bit ugly here, but it's got some sideways movement. So let's see if this pullback is officially over. Next one, AMC, and overall, Not a whole lot of new things to report. For those of you that watched the video previously, should make more sense. Been talking about that level of resistance right there, that red line at 465, and you can see today, a couple of false breakouts there, and then at that point, the price got rejected directly off of it. Now, as I speak right now, nice little final 30 minutes. You can see this green candle is growing and getting bigger and bigger, so maybe it's going to make another run up and try to break through that level. But anyway, look at it. 465 has been the area of resistance. It's been a problem point several times before, before today. And then on the other side of things, nothing new to report. In fact, from a positive note, I mean, it didn't even touch this green line here like it did back there. So, I mean, from that angle, sure, it pulled back a little bit, but it hasn't even tested the downside of the downside of the channel pattern there. So, overall, that'd be the easiest way to look at this, just a sideways channel pattern. But, it continues to knock on the door of that 465 mark. So that's really the big question mark moving forward is, can the price finally get up through it and then stay above it? Real quick, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online class that I'm offering here in a few days. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency, to manage risk, then certainly get signed up for the free live class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box, or if you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the page you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying, then definitely get signed up for the free live class. Next one, SOFI, and once again, higher highs and higher lows, so that is the name of the game, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that level right there as it served its purpose. Now, I will mention there's a bit of perspective that goes into it. I mean, if you're some sort of day trader, flipper, scalper, whatever you want to call yourself, and you bought right there and your plan was to buy and sell within 7 minutes, well then yes, from that perspective, the chart looks pretty bad because it did pull back after hitting that area. However, assuming you care about the big picture point of view, let me squeeze this down, then overall, the price still has plenty of opportunity to chip away and build a higher base. Because as you see here, these lows, maybe easier way to say this, just envision these as stair steps. You can see the stair steps still very, very clearly in the upwards direction. Once again, I understand if you're a day trader and you bought right there, you don't really care about these stair steps. But that's why I'm trying to emphasize that I'm talking about things from two different angles. And from the angle of big picture standpoint, everything is still perfectly fine. So as far as levels of support, as I've talked about, continue to watch that purple line right there. In fact, I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of that green line, as I think the easier way to look at this now is just continue to watch that purple line, 50 period moving average, currently valued at the 702 mark. And then as far as areas of resistance are concerned, nothing fancy, just a question of, well, where did the party finally stop today? And that was right up there at $7.55. So keep a close eye on that. But yeah, overall, the uptrend is still perfectly fine. Next one here, TSLA, same general idea that I talked about. Everything is perfectly fine, assuming you care about the big picture point of view. Now, if you were a day trader that bought right there, then as mentioned, yeah, things aren't looking so good as there was a pretty big pullback after that level here. But assuming you care about the bigger picture point of view here on Tesla, very clear still, higher highs and higher lows being put into place. But the one dynamic here from more of a trading standpoint is if you're somebody that likes to play upon potential self-fulfilling prophecies, you got to think that all sorts of people have drawn that trend line right there by connecting that point. And that point, you can see, did a fantastic job of forecasting that rejection. So you got to think all sorts of people are watching it, which, as I've said and will continue to say, does that guarantee anything? No, but does it make it plausible? Does it make it valid to think that if the price can push up through that trend line, that break in and of itself could create additional buying pressure? In my mind, that certainly makes it a very plausible outcome. So like I said, from that angle of things, if you like potentially playing self-fulfilling prophecy type breakouts, certainly keep an eye on that trend line. Next one here, ticker symbol U, as in literally just the letter U. And, this is on here just because a watch list at the core is where you find unique. You find interesting situations and not rush out and start randomly buying stuff, but watching it. And this is one of those situations that I would consider very unique. You can see essentially nothing was going on. And then the news came out about Apple and the volume came pouring in. This thing just skyrocketed upwards. So in other words, like I said, in my opinion, that's a very interesting situation. Are there any alerts necessarily right now? You could look at something like this where you could draw and say, okay, it's looking like there's some resistance right there at 37.50. I wouldn't disagree with that. In fact, if the price just kind of hovers down here around a little bit more, then at some point you could very well have a potential pennant pattern that maybe forms at some point tomorrow. Again, that's just speculation on my part because we just don't know what the future holds. But what we do know is that this thing had big news, had huge price movement, had huge volume. So if you like these sorts of components and think it's worthwhile in terms of putting it on a watch list to keep your eye on it, then definitely, keep an eye on it. Next one here, NIO, and this one has made itself very, very clear in terms of what level a lot of people are watching it. Maybe you've already noticed. That's interesting. Price was rejected by that pink line once, and then look right where it got rejected from again today. So going back to the whole idea of those self-fulfilling prophecies, you got to think that all sorts of people are keeping an eye on that 200 period moving average right now valued at $7.88. So if the price can get back up there and push up through it, as I've said, no guarantees, but is it plausible to think that that break could create additional buying pressure? That is certainly a plausible outcome that, could certainly play out. So keep an eye on that. In terms of levels of support, nothing new here to really report other than the fact of that this purple line here so far so good. Is doing a good job of holding strong, which you can see from last week did a good job, and the price isn't necessarily at it, but there has been a pullback this afternoon, so maybe this purple line comes back into play. But even if it does, I would say the more, much more important level of support down here at $7.25. But as of now, I also admit that's kind of irrelevant because the price isn't anywhere close to it. But overall, in the very near term, you have the key level of resistance a lot of people are watching, key level of support that a lot of people are watching. So the question just becomes who's ultimately going to win out. Are the bulls going to get a break to the upside, or the bears going to get a break to the downside? Next one here, TQQQ, which is an ETF that measures the NASDAQ. So if you believe the NASDAQ market is going to rise as a whole, this one will also rise. The biggest difference is that it just allows you access at a much lower price point, which makes it a very popular ETF. And we essentially have what I've talked about before, and I always put this one last in the list here, but overall, things are still perfectly fine. There is a little bit of context that goes into it because, yes, I admit that if you're a day trader and you were buying right here and wanting to buy and sell within 20 minutes, well then yes, from that angle, not so good because the price did pull back. But in pulling back, you can see that, technically speaking, it hasn't even gone down and tested that area of support that I talked about on Friday, let alone that purple line there. So, and then in very near term, so we have our pullback right here, but we have the nice upward move there. So there's like a little miniature bull flag pattern in and of itself. But assuming you don't want to look that narrowly at things and looking at things from the big picture point of view, hopefully you see here that, pullback today, but overall the trend is still very clearly upwards. But if you do like to play the kind of those bull flag scenarios, then and you believe in the overall uptrend, then I could see you making the argument, and I wouldn't disagree that, this could potentially be a very, very solid buying area, especially when you have these hammer candles right there. In terms of levels of resistance, nothing fancy, just that question of, well, where did the party stop today? And that was right up there at 37.60, so keep an eye on that. But overall, the trend is still perfectly fine, even with the pullback today. So that wraps up the top 10 list. Again, if you like what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free live online class. It'll be in a few days, like I said, Thursday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope to see you there. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy these, please do two things for me. Hit the like button and leave a comment. Say hi. Tell me what you traded today. Tell me what you're watching tomorrow. But those two things help out the channel. They communicate to me that you're enjoying. And as long as I know you're enjoying, I'll continue to put out these top 10 videos. So thanks for watching. Hit that like button, leave a comment below, and go get signed up for that free class.